From the moment Zoran Mamdani stepped into the spotlight, people labeled him the people's mayor, the subway-riding democratic socialist who promised to shake up the most expensive city in America. He stood on debate stages talking about taxing the wealthy, tearing down the old political order, and making the city livable for the millions of New Yorkers who feel like the system has forgotten them. But the deeper you look into his story, the more you realize something surprising. Zoran Mamdani's life isn't the straightforward tale of a struggling underdog rising against the machine. In fact, his journey blends privilege, politics, creativity, controversy, and contradictions in ways most people don't realize. And understanding that story reveals a lot about who he really is, and what kind of mayor he's truly going to be. Most people know the public version of Zoran, the Staten Island fairy. Extremely online young progressive, who talks about inequality like it's the only thing that matters. But what almost no one talks about is the world he came from. His parents weren't just comfortable. His mother is an internationally acclaimed filmmaker, and his father is a renowned Columbia University academic, whose books appear on college syllabi around the world. Zoran didn't grow up wondering whether he'd have a safety net. He grew up with the kind of solid, intellectual, cultural foundation most New Yorkers could only dream of. And yet, he chose to build a political identity around fighting the very inequality he never personally had to face. That contradiction alone has fueled online debate for years. Is Zoran authentic, or is he just the latest political figure to master the art of branding? His personal finances paint an even more interesting picture. If you Google his net worth, you'll see the same number everywhere. Roughly $200,000, and in a world where political heavyweights casually float between million-dollar book deals and private consulting gigs, that number seems almost shockingly low, especially when you compare it to someone like Andrew Cuomo, who reportedly sits at around $10 million. On paper, Zoran looks like the least wealthy politician in the room, but there's nuance hiding beneath those numbers. His disclosure forms reveal something unexpected. 4 acres of land in Jinja, Uganda, a stone's throw from the source of the Nile, valued somewhere between $150,000 and $250,000. Not exactly billionaire territory, but also not a random patch of farmland. And because New York City disclosures don't require listing cash accounts, it's technically possible he has more stored away than people see. None of this means he's secretly wealthy, but it does show that his financial story isn't as simple as the humble young politician scraping by in the city image might suggest. But to really understand him, you have to go back to the beginning. Zoran was born in Kampala, Uganda in 1991. Surrounded from childhood by the kind of creativity and academia that shape entire worldviews. When he was still young, he moved to New York and enrolled in one of the most prestigious, expensive private schools in the city. Bank Street School in Manhattan now costs as much as $66,000 per year for elementary school. That's the same price tag some colleges charge. From there, he went to Bronx Science, one of New York's most competitive public schools, and later to Bowdoin College, a small, elite liberal arts school in Maine that produced CEOs, Silicon Valley founders, and a long list of influential leaders. Growing up, Zoran wasn't struggling to survive. He was surrounded by the kind of opportunity that quietly shapes confidence, ambition, and perspective. But instead of leaning into the world of consultants, lawyers, or corporate leaders, the path his peers might have chosen, he pivoted. His focus shifted to activism, community organizing, and eventually politics. And it's that pivot that still sparks debate. Is he a visionary who chose a path of service, or someone strategically building the perfect anti-elite narrative from within elite spaces? His style adds another layer to the story. While most political figures lean into the polished, I'm ready for office look, Zoran goes in a different direction. He shows up in slim-cut suits that always look like they've survived a long subway commute, paired with Uniqlo basics and a Casio watch that costs less than dinner in Manhattan. To some people, that signals authenticity. To others, it feels like a carefully curated anti-establishment aesthetic, a visual reminder that he's not playing by the traditional rules. During an interview with GQ, Zoran admitted his wardrobe is intentionally practical, simple, and rooted in his everyday life. But the question remains, is this simplicity just who he is, or does he understand that dressing like a real New Yorker helps sell a political brand built around fighting the elite? That question gets even more interesting when you look at his wife, Rama, because the internet had a field day when they found out who she was and how they met. Not through a political rally or an art gallery opening, but on Hinge. Yes, Hinge, the app everyone swears they'll stop using, but never actually delete. And when their relationship went public, people immediately started digging. Rama isn't a politician. She's an illustrator with a bold, expressive, Gen Z-coded style that mixes downtown minimalism with cultural craftsmanship. Her election night outfit, a jacquard accented top by a Palestinian-Jordanian designer, velvet lace skirt, and jewelry from New York creators was stylish, grounded, and unapologetically personal. She wasn't trying to look like the stereotypical political spouse in safe colors and modest silhouettes. She looked like herself, but that individuality made her a target. As soon as people found photos from their Dubai family celebration, a simple, low-cost ceremony that still somehow turned into a talking point, critics online began spinning narratives. They accused Zoran of hiding his marriage. They criticized Rama for using her art to support the pro-Palestine movement. They even tried to twist their ceremony into some kind of extravagant scandal, despite the fact that reports confirmed the cost was about $72 per guest, basically the same price as dinner and drinks in Manhattan. What started as a simple family celebration suddenly became internet ammo, and for the first time, Zoran was forced into a very public defense of his personal life. He didn't hold back. In an emotional Instagram post, he revealed they had married in a civil ceremony 3 months earlier and made it clear he wouldn't let trolls drag his family into political mudslinging. "You can critique my views," he wrote, "but not my family." It was the kind of line that instantly caught attention, part romantic, part defiant, and undeniably political. Rama herself stayed quiet, but on election day she posted a carousel of photos, photo booth strips, a childhood pic of Zoran. "There I voted" selfies. The message was subtle but clear. She wasn't hiding and she wasn't intimidated. Their relationship ended up telling a bigger story. A new kind of political couple, young and creative, refusing to fit into the outdated mold of what leadership should look like. And that makes some people uncomfortable. Politics has always pushed spouses into the background, expecting them to dress the part, smile politely, and avoid controversy. But Rama is none of that. Her style, her art, her presence, they all signal something different. A generational shift. A break from old political traditions. A reminder that authenticity, whether people like it or not, is replacing the carefully polished image of previous decades. And that brings us back to Zoran's rise, because it happened fast. Very fast. Becoming the youngest mayor in New York City history at 34 isn't just impressive, it's unheard of. One day, he was organizing in Queens, riding the subway to debates, releasing rap tracks under the name Young Cardamom, and navigating rent-stabilized life. The next day, he's living in Gracie Mansion, with a $260,000 mayoral salary, a security detail, and the responsibility of running the most complex city in America. His supporters see him as proof that politics is changing, that someone young and idealistic can still break through. His critics see him as a carefully designed political project, whose everyman persona hides elite roots and strategic branding. And the truth, it might be somewhere in between. Because Zoran Mamdani represents a blend of contradictions. He grew up privileged, yet built a career fighting privilege. He dresses simply, but comes from a world of global creatives and academics. He preaches economic struggle while holding international property. He calls out corruption while navigating a political world filled with it. He's relatable enough to meet his wife on Hinge, yet polished enough to win a citywide election at 34. And maybe that's exactly why people are so fascinated by him. He doesn't fit into any traditional category. Not the elitist, not the outsider, not the typical politician. In a city as chaotic, diverse, and unpredictable as New York. Maybe that's what makes him the perfect political figure for this moment. Or maybe it means the real story, the one behind the persona, the branding. The rise is just beginning. Because if there's one thing history has taught us, it's that the most interesting political stories aren't the ones told on election night. They're the ones that unfold afterward, in the moments when the cameras stop rolling and the real decisions begin. And as Zoran Mamdani steps into Gracie Mansion, leaving behind the rent-stabilized apartment and hopping off the subway into a role no one expected him to fill so soon, the biggest question remains: will the people's mayor stay true to the person he claims to be? Or will the next chapter reveal a version of him the city hasn't seen yet? Only time will tell. For more untold stories, hidden details, and the moments everyone else overlooks, don't forget to subscribe. This is Fame Detective.